welcome everybody to our first Democraciv Mark 13 presidential debate. I am here with the wonderful QI and the wonderful Hey Nico. We have a good few questions to get through, and this will be less so of a little debate. And more so of them answering questions. Yes, there may be some opportunities for pushback. I guess we should have discussed this a bit beforehand. That's my bad. But how it's going in my mind is I'll ask a question, I'll direct it to one of you, one will answer, then the other person will answer, and then I guess I'll open it up. Do you think I'd ask you guys this right now? I guess it's all right being on air. Would that be satisfactory to you, or do you really want an opportunity to push back? I mean, it's the first term. I don't think there's anything to necessarily debate about per se yet. What do you guys think?
I think the format you suggested is fine. It's more like an interview than a debate in a certain way.
That's it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm fine either way with a bit of
mhm,
pushback here or no pushback, whatever's
yeah.
simple.
Okay. Yeah, I think in the future for sure we'll see how this goes in the future if we do another one. Regardless, we'll maybe open it up a bit more. If you, I guess, if there's anything that really stands out to you and you really want to feel like you want to call it out, just tell me, and before we move on, and that'll be that. But otherwise, we have a good bunch of questions that we'll go through, and we'll just take it one at a time. So this first question. I will hand it over to, I guess, QI. So for question number one, what is your personal goal for the first term?
I would say that my personal policy goal or aspiration is to get our religion founded, enhanced, and reformed, so that we have all of our beliefs in place for the rest of the game.
Excellent. Now, hey, Nico, it's your turn. You may, what's your response to this question?
Uh, well, I think religion is a very fair shout, but to answer my question, my opinion on this, my personal goal would be to establish a foundation, a very stable foundation for our nation, and especially for the coming terms. My main focus will probably be more on creating key legislation that gives our Celtic Republic, our home, our country, a chance to thrive and grow, putting in key legislation that will allow us to, in theory, keep this thing running. Because let's be honest, without key legislation, the whole thing goes to crap. So I'd say my key goal is to put in strong, stable foundations of legislation to help this country grow.
Excellent. Good response from both of you. Number one was just a lot of good stuff. It's just your own personal take. Nothing really, I think, is hugely consequent or like hugely divisive there on either front. So moving on to number two, I'll start with Hey Nico this time. Um, there's a game settings bill in the Commons right now. We know QI has authored this along with the help of a few other party members. There's been ongoing discussions, and I'm not saying by any means it's a finalized thing. I can't speak on it one way or another. But I just want to ask you, what is your take on this game settings bill?
I'm Look. There's a lot of stuff I agree with it. It's stock standard. I was reading through it just literally a few minutes ago. I was talking about it with QI about my opinion on it, which was about starting the game maybe 5 turns of just scouting and then ending the then session, then discuss about location. I'm of the opinion of that we have a turn zero, if it were, where in that turn zero we doesn't count towards anything. It's just literally just scouting to pick a location for our settlement. That way, we've got time to see the board before. It's 5 turns, so it's not massive, won't add anything. And then that 5 turn, and basically we just allow ourselves to say, all right, this is where we want it. Let's go here, and in that gap, we start the next session. We start the next game. We start the first term officially. So basically, a turn zero just to organize and redo everything. That would be my opinion. But everything else, I'm pretty much agreeable on.
Okay. Moving over to QI real quick. So your answer for the second question.
So I mean, I'm the main author on that bill, and so in terms of the mods we're using, I think there are maybe one or two mods that I would consider adding. I've been doing lots of experimenting, and so I'm trying to like figure out what works well. Um, and so as for Nico's concern, something that's included in the second version of this bill is increasing the visibility radius on our start, so that we don't have to like do that manual scouting. Um, because when you're
Oh, oh,
then we're delaying our religion, we're delaying our development. And so I think just the inclusion of that increased visibility is going to be helpful for the Commons and for the Senate in terms of thinking about their legislation.
If I may interject for a moment, if that's all right with you, Tay.
one second, one second. I want to clear this up. There was a weird glitch, and someone there was like a hiccup or something. So for a good like 10 seconds, I didn't hear you. I got the last maybe 15 seconds you were speaking, but I want to make sure there's no gaps. Do you want to like summarize real quick just in case?
Sure. So where did I leave off? What was the last that I had said a substantial amount. Um,
You
so I think
said it cut off between I increased the visibility range, and then it came back right when you were talking about how it would benefit the commons and yada yada.
right. So by increasing the visibility range, like as the bill sort of as written says that we aren't supposed to settle the first city, and so if we just move our warrior around, our starting warrior or our starting scout, if we want to include one, then time is ticking, and the other civs are putting down their cities and starting to generate yields, and it's going to put us behind a few turns. And on a map like this, it's a huge map, that could be problematic. And so, what this increased visibility radius is going to do, it's going to give more information to the Commons and the Senate about their legislation. That's more or less what I was going to say.
Excellent. So hey Nico, you said you want to interject. I'll let
Yeah.
you do
Uh,
whatever interject you want to do, and then I'll go back to QI if he has a response to that, and then we'll
uh,
move on to the
my
next question.
my only problem is, as you said, like I agree with you. Yes, visions, and I don't care about the commons, but as stated before, it's still going to cost us a a session in theory, which literally we're gonna have one session. It's literally going to be that probably the only session we're going to have, and in that one session, we're going to waste maybe 2 minutes looking at a location to then just take it to the commons to discuss. In my honest opinion, having a turn zero would benefit because in that turn zero, you can go, all right, we don't have to do all this flagrant politics stuff. We don't have to do all the things. Just take a photo, pass it across, and that's it. And then you discuss it, and then the next session we have will be the official start of the game. It's a bit of a cleanup session. I think that's a fair call to say. Maybe QI may disagree with this and may bring up another point of order, but in my opinion, having a turn zero to discuss it, to literally just take a photo, not count it for anything, and then pass it along would be, in my opinion, a bit more quicker, a bit more easier, and would cause less of a headache, I think, long term.
Okay, QI,
Um,
I'll let you have a response.
sure. So, I mean, admittedly, I'm not totally clear on um, Nico's suggestion. I think it will be much easier if I see it in writing.
Okay.
So,
Okay. All right, we'll move on just for sake of time, but if we do get into the weeds, it's kind of how we'll do it, just to make sure we're not here all night.
yeah.
Question number three now. Question number three is, and this will go to QI first this time, but I'll read it out. How many turns do you anticipate fulfilling during your term? And I should clarify, I mean this first 4 weeks of a presidential term. How many turns do you anticipate fulfilling during your term?
Um, it's hard to say. It ultimately depends upon what the legislature will let me have. My hope is to play out 100 to 120 turns. Um, and I say that because, like, if we do epic speed as we have in the current game settings bill, um, like it will be 1.5 times slower in terms of research. And I guess in terms of production costs also, but the other stuff in the game settings bill helps with that. But if we were going sort of at standard pace, then we would expect to have around 20 turns per week. And so 20 times 1.5, you have 30 turns a week. And if we have a session zero, that would be about 90. But I would ask the legislature to give me a bit more.
Okay. Hey, Nico.
With what QI said, I'm on par with that same opinion. Um, yeah, I'm honestly there's nothing to say. I agree with QI on that one. I'd probably do the exact same opinion, have the exact same thought process. 100 to end, about 120 turns.
Okay. Excellent. So going on to number 4, and if you're sensing the pattern, hey Nico, you'll be going first for this one. The question is, what do you foresee as the biggest challenge this term? And this doesn't have to be a personal thing. This can just be like your observation of the whole game. What do you foresee as the biggest challenge this term?
The way to answer this is hard because you have to look at the party surrounding this mark. You've got pro peace, pro environmentalists, pro war, conservatives, cartography. There's a lot of parties. So for me, the biggest challenge I reckon this term I definitely can see would be balance expansion because let's be honest, balance expansion is probably going to be the hardest because because people are going to find civilizations or they're going to find weak city states, and the first thing that's going to go through people's minds is that city state or that, let's say, that civ that's just that's struggling, is that civ going to be conquered, yes or no? My opinion is with balance expansion and especially early expansion, we must be careful because overextending too early can lead us to risks. It could open the door to possibly having a number of issues. We don't want to overextend too early. So for me, I'd have to say the biggest challenge I could see is with expansionism in the first term, towards either the idea of opening new cities or to the idea of basically finding another civ that's weaker than us, and then the consequences and discussions of that being, do we conquer it, yes or no? I know for a fact there are definitely parties this term that will lean towards the immediate conquest of that.
All right, QI.
I guess I have a sort of slightly different set of concerns. I think a big challenge that we're going to encounter this term is bicameralism. The last time that we had bicameralism was all the way in Mark V. And so, like, trying to make sure that the Commons and the Senate can work efficiently together and get bills to the president so that the president just doesn't run away with the game as people felt like was the case with the executive in Mark IV and at some points in Mark VI. Um, I think that's a worry that I have. In terms of the expansion worry, I'm worried that we probably won't expand quite quickly enough in order to like establish our borders. Um, and I think that also has to do with our agendas, both of us. And but that's okay because I think that we're going to find that this map is going to be quite big, and we're going to want to secure sources um, of happiness, particularly global happiness. And I think that's going to limit our growth.
Excellent. Anything to interject with there?
Nothing for me at this current
Okay.
time, no.
Okay. I think. All right. Finding my spot. Number 5. Certainly, this was a point of discussion during the organizing period. There's definitely at least a good cluster, or at least a small sect, a good segment of people who were um, a bit weary of this. And so, you guys, facts on the table, you're running for president. One of you is going to be the first president. If it's not one of you, then something crazy has happened. And so, you guys are going to have a lot of responsibility, whoever it may be. So, my question goes to QI first, right? I'm hoping I'm not forgetting. Just tell me if I'm wrong. But this question Number 5, what is your view of the veto power? And let me expand on this a tad bit. Um, I'm trying to ask, like, in terms of like how you plan to use it. I should have clarified a bit.
Right. So, I mean, I think so a difference that we had in Mark V, again, which was the last time we had bicameralism, is that there was no executive veto, because the upper house, which I believe uh, was it the state assembly or the national assembly, um, like would essentially act as sort of that filter, that veto for bills coming from the lower house. Here we already have a filter, and so I think policy wise, I don't want to have to uh, like exercise the veto very much on policy grounds. In a parliamentary system, like you use the veto power to veto something that you think is unconstitutional, which and we had a parliamentary system in Mark 10, um, but uh, but here I hope to use the veto sparingly.
Nico?
So my take, probably very similar to QY's in a sense, is with the veto. Trying to think about how I would word this. Sorry, I'm literally just blanking so hard right now. Kushal? Oh,
Kushal's here?
yeah, he just joined.
Did you want to say something, Nico? Or do you want me to?
Yeah. Sorry, as I said, I was just blanked. So with veto, I think it should exist as a safeguard rather than a political tool. I mean, yes, you can use a political tool. I'm not going to disagree with that, but for the current state of veto, I believe that it should be for this term in particular. I believe it should be more of a safeguard. It should be used in a more careful sense and should be used more with the understanding of keeping long term interests of the nation understandably. I'll just simplify because now I'm rambling. I believe that the veto should be kept currently for the time being as a more of a way to safeguard the nation for the long term. For this term, I believe that the idea of using it for more political sense would be a bit wasteful, and in some senses, if anything, be more personal. So I honestly don't see the valuable in using it for your own political gain.
Okay. Okay. All right. So going on to number 6 here. We're almost done. We're now more than halfway through everything. So number 6, it states that a common thread, and this one's going to go to Nico first. So just kind of prepping your noggin. A common thread we see in established parties is a desire for expansion. What is your stance regarding expansion in this first term, not overall?
So, as previously mentioned, I I'm a very big believer and very much like the party I'm with, conservative in early expansion. Plan is build and I want to, in a sense, expand as quickly as we can, but not overly extendably in the sense of overextension wise. I want to focus on a ability to where we're not expanding too wide and then we get pushed back to the basically the corner of the world. I want to look at this term as a way of setting up a basic foundation to where the nation can kind of run with maybe 4 or 5 cities, and then from there, obviously, if we're back here this time next term, I want to look towards maybe expanding a little bit more. But the plan is basically this term is just basically just set up a basic structure of maybe 5 cities or 4 or 5 cities where we can just run things as smoothly and as effectively as possible while maintaining our own independence and our own, in a sense, our own economy.
Excellent. Okay. Good response. QI, your turn.
So I think like I I feel like I have sort of conflicting goals. On the one hand, like setting up the religion in the way that I want is going to be like costly in terms of production and time, and so and policy. And so I think that probably will delay our expansion a bit. Granted, we are on quite a large map, and so I don't expect that we will have very much in the way of border contests. I will say that like something that strategists will tell you is that you want to expand towards contested borders first, like prioritizing luxury resources so that we can keep expanding. Um, and so, um, ideally, 4 cities, 5 cities, so that by turn 150, we can be at like 7 perhaps or 8 later on.
Okay.
But then like long term, I like the kind of strategy that I have in mind for the Civ takes around 20 or so cities to really actually work.
Okay. Seems like nothing else to jump into. So we're going on to question 7 now. So question 7, and you would think it'd be easy for me to keep track because there's only 2 of you, but for some reason I'm now starting to forget. I think this one goes to QI first because he just got done speaking to me. So
Yeah.
question 7. We've already gotten word that there are groups of people called barbarians. How do you think we should approach them? And to give some context here and buying people time as they think of their answer, if you have not experienced Deep Civ before, there's always some kind of humanitarian approach to barbarians or something like that. And so we're hitting it off early on here, and just kind of getting people's opinions on how should we approach barbarians. QI, you go ahead.
So the word barbarian comes from Greek, and it meant anyone who wasn't Greek. And so I think when we talk about foreigners generally, I think we have distinctions to be made between other sort of major powers and city states. But I think the way that we like the way that Civ treats barbarians is really as bandits or highwaymen, and I have little sympathy for them. Um, and like they play Robin Hood. Of course, the problem with Robin Hood is that like he purportedly took from the rich to give to the poor, but he really was just taking it for himself. So I think they're going to have a visit from Lou of the Long Arm if I'm elected.
Excellent. Nico, your turn.
Look, we could go on and on and on about the problems with barbarians, and I have to agree. Early on, Civ wise, barbarians are, put it mildly, as QI said, bandits, highwaymen, maybe small group of, I don't know how to describe it, problems that we have to deal with. Now, do I believe that we should go out of our way to go to, let's say, the outside of the island to go kill a barbarian camp? No, that would be, in my opinion, a waste of resources and problematic. But do I also believe that we should protect our borders and, in a sense, get rid of any barbarian camps that may affect us in the short and long term? Absolutely. So the way I look at it is barbarians are going to be a problem. It doesn't matter how you look at it. It's just a matter of, do you want to go out of the way to go to the other side of the world to deal with it, or do you want to deal with what's closest, slowly but surely defend your own place, and then work from there? So my take is, yeah, deal with the barbarians, but deal with them closer.
QI, you have any response you want to interject?
Um, I guess more in addition to my previous response, and sort of in a way that responds, I think that so city states often will put bounties on barbarian camps, and like helping like nearby city states clear them will like make them very happy towards us. Um, and so I think that will that provides an incentive, I think, for us to help those city states in need.
Okay. Nico, you want a last quick response to that and
Uh,
before we go next? You
yeah, I'll
don't
just
have to,
quickly
but
add
if you
this.
want to.
I would personally believe that if we are to go to, let's say, the other side of the world to go kill a barbarian camp, because that civ is pretty friendly with us, or that city state's pretty friendly with us, I think that'd be a bit of a waste of resources, especially in the early to mid game sense. Mid to late, I would then say maybe is probably a smart idea.
Okay. All right, moving on to this next question here. Boop. Oh, now we're into
The Reddit questions,
the
yeah.
Reddit questions. I'm going to pull those up real quick. I took a picture. And probably pull them up on the screen too. But okay, so I'm going to do the first Reddit question. We have 2 of these, and then just a final thing, and then we'll be all done, gentlemen. But the first Reddit question comes from MVP Squirtle. Uh, Question is: It is known that the Celts are a faithful people. and the likelihood that we will be able to form an organized pantheon/religion quickly is high. With that in mind, there are there any specific beliefs that you would push for our newfound religion to have? And this one, I think I'm. Who do I go to first for this one?
I think it's
Nico.
me because
Yep.
Nico.
yeah, me.
I'm having like a moment. Okay, Nico, go ahead.
Okay, so beliefs in the sense of, are we talking about from a religious, like, what's the religion we're dominating, or we could want to go towards, or we're talking about beliefs in the Civ 5 sense, like benefits and whatnot.
I
If I talk,
believe, I believe that they intend beliefs as in like the bonuses you pick in a when you pick whenever you found a religion or whenever you found a pantheon, you pick a bonus basically.
oh, that's a hard one. Um, hmm, I, well, the thing is, the way I look at it is the my belief and the belief I believe of the Conservative Party is that we want to look towards a more Christian, maybe Christian denomination of faith, right? So, with the beliefs and benefits of that, I would probably say we'd have to look towards maybe, I think maybe Pantheon. You could say a bunch of stuff, but beliefs. I'd have to say probably interfaith dialogue would be a good one. I mean, that gains science bonus. But all right, I'm just rambling. I'm gonna make it simple. I honestly believe the world church, maybe tithe, would probably be much more something we'd look forward to. That plus one culture, that plus one gold for every 4 to 5 followers would benefit us greatly because it would open the door to early game expansion in the science and cultural stuff, and it would also allow us to maintain a quite substantial amount of money, which would allow us to buy land, tiles, and buildings.
All right, QI, your response.
So in Civ 5, the World Church tenet only applies to foreign pops. And so it means we're going to have to send missionaries possibly quite a long way in order to get much benefit. And it scales pretty slowly. It's only one for every 5 pops converted. In terms of should I continue with my own response or?
Yeah, you can.
So in terms of the tenets that I would push for in a pantheon, I look for faith generation, and if not, something generic that gives yields immediately. So God King, if we don't have a start location that's conducive to a strong faith generating pantheon. In the mods that I have included, there is a Sacred Groves pantheon, which gives additional faith from forests, which is, I think, RP wise, quite nice. In terms of other beliefs, I strongly support getting multiple, ideally 3 different religious buildings. And these buildings can be quite powerful. They provide happiness, they provide faith, and in the mod pack, the more faith buildings pack from Gaia, which we have in the game settings bill, they also have like neat little perks. So some like scale science with the number of different religions present in the city. Some scale trade route distance. There are some quite strong buildings in there, and it will work really well if we take the sacred sites Reformation belief. And so that's really the strategy with sacred sites. We're getting 6 tourism per city long run, and with however many cities, we're making 6 times that amount of tourism at least. And so that will put us in a very strong position for culture victory, even on a big map.
Nice, good answer.
If I may just add to my answer, if that's
Yes,
allowed.
you can interject.
Not interject, just more add to what I was going, more to my answer.
Okay.
If I do agree with QAnon says that these are all about, spreading religion and that. One that we could definitely look towards in terms of founder belief, because let's be honest, we want to found a religion, would probably be church property, plus 2 gold for each city following this religion. That would be pretty good. If we're going to discuss, and then to add also to maybe enhance the beliefs, which I think to make help us spread our religion, I'd probably have to say holy order would be nice because of that 30% less cost of faith. So that's probably what's going to help us probably spread and also to an extent build up. I think that would be a pretty nice bonus to go for.
Okay,
So
QI, I want to give you a chance again.
sure. So church property is okay. It's at least meta wise, it's considered not quite as strong as tithe because it doesn't scale with population, but it is a big map and a wide play style, so it makes slightly more sense. But I'm still slightly worried about global happiness, and so ceremonial burial doesn't give all that much, but it is a belief that gives global happiness. And there was one more mod that I was planning to add to the game settings bill, which is from this Tibetan tenant pack called Universal Compassion, which is +2 happiness from converting city states or foreign capitals. And there are going to be a lot of city states on this map, and chances are they're going to want our religion anyway. And so that's potentially quite a bit of global happiness. It just means that we're going to need to get our missionaries out there. As for the enhancer belief, I like on a map like this, I would typically support itinerant preachers because in Civ 5, passive religious spread is stronger than in 6. And so we don't want to, and we also, if we're buying religious buildings, we're going to want to save up our faith so that we can get those buildings in all our cities rather than have to spend that on missionaries.
Okay, excellent. So now I'm going to go to the second Reddit question. This one comes from Paint Houses. Most parties have environmental conservation as one of their main issues. With that in mind, what environmental protections will you champion while president? QI, I believe this one goes to you.
Sure. So I think the major. So I do have a bill drafted about this, and I think the big priority for me is going to be protecting forests like adjacent to our cities. And this will be particularly important if we have a pantheon belief, in particular sacred groves. Um, but yeah, because those help with our faith generation. Um, and so naturally, I'm not, and also because in this mod, like, or rather, one of the mods in the settings improves the production yield from forests, and so cutting down forests is not a great idea. If we have, there is such a thing as excess. Not every tree is sacred, but I do think protecting our forests is going to be a priority.
Okay. Nico, your turn.
Look, I'll be honest. This environmental stuff, I can't exactly agree to it because the problem is, again, I think it's a smart idea what QI is saying. If it benefits us, why cut it down? Why move it? I get that. The thing is, and this is where I'll kind of attack my opponent for a moment. But I'll get to that in a second. Is it's assuming we have forest around us. We don't know what the setting may be. For all we know, might spawn in a tundra biome, and that will do absolutely nothing for us. So the way I look at it is, I believe that if we want to discuss about maybe opening up national parks in the peace sense, or we want to focus on things that may benefit us long term, I can understand from a meta sense. But if I've got a city that has to produce things or needs the ability to grow farmland, and I've got a bill preventing me from removing, let's say, a forest to benefit the city, I honestly think that long term that will hurt us more than it would help us. So, to comment on the environmental stuff, I physically can't until we know what the starting location looks like.
QI, your response?
I will say that the Celts do, in fact, have a starting bias towards forests, and the map settings that we have are going to mean there's lots of forests, most likely. So,
Nico, final rebut, if you want one. Am I here? Are you here?
Sorry,
Here.
sorry, I had to go get for a sec. What did I miss?
QI, do you mind repeating what you said?
Sorry.
Yeah, so I was going to point out that the Celts do, in fact, have a start bias towards forests, and the map settings, as it stands in the game settings bill, are going to mean there are a lot of forests on this map.
Okay.
Okay, Nico. So your final rebut before we move on.
So so we now know it's forest. Great. So how does that answer my previous questions of farming and food? Because again, as stated, I agree with you that 100% benefits and all that. But if we're not producing stuff or we're not having the ability to grow our cities and borders and whatnot, then what's the point? Like, it doesn't help us at all. It kind of hinders us.
Okay.
So, I mean, I wasn't responding to that directly. I was responding to your comment about like spawning in a tundra where it wouldn't be relevant. I do think it's a fair point that we're going to need to do some amount of development. There are parties to the left of me, in particular Mean and Clan Iraq, who I think are more severe than I am in pushing for some of these protections. I want to be able to um, strike somewhat of a moderate course where we are getting the benefits out of our forests, but we aren't. I think there needs to be some amount of instrumental purpose. I would say that not every forest can be sacred.
Okay. For the sake of balance, Nico, you got one last thing to say. Then I am moving on.
I've got nothing to add.
Okay. All right. So now we're at the final question. Good job, gentlemen. So question number 10. Um, this one's QI. I want to think. But
Yeah.
QI, you're going to get this one first. This is just a good old fashioned wrap it up. Why should people vote for you? This is your final pitch. Take it away.
So what I can say is I have been working on our game settings bill. I have been playing through the first 50, 100 turns, like doing this repeatedly, looking at different settings, different start locations. And I think I have a fairly strong grasp of the kind of setting we're going to be in and our priorities in terms of religion, especially. I stand for environmental conservation, whereas my opponent sees it as just instrumental at best. Whereas I think I have been championing the mechanical benefits thereof. I have a clearer sense of the mechanics of religion, which is an important issue for many voters. And I mean, I think I just have more experience. I've been playing Civ 5 for a very long time. Um, and it would be a pleasure to play again after how many marks of Civ 6 have we played?
Many.
13. We played
well,
13 months.
well, in total, but when was the last Civ 5 mark? Was it Mark 6?
I think there
So,
was one after that, but you might not be wrong there.
no, I'm pretty sure it was Mark 6, in which case it's been 5 years since we last played Civ 5 as the Democracy of Community.
Wow. Crazy. All right, Nico, your final blah.
Look, I'll make it. I'm not the experienced statesman like QI is. I can make that pretty obvious. What I am, and what I said I am, is, to be honest, I'm for a vision built on tradition, culture, and community. One focus that I want on, one focus that I want to focus on is on responsible growth, strong foundations, and stable future. I will work with the Common House and with my own and with the president if I win or lose, but I want to win. I work towards expanding our nation wisely, preserving what makes us strong, and building a civilization prepared not just to survive, but to thrive. It's about putting this nation together for not just us, but for the future and for the next few, however many people come in and out of office. So that's why, in my opinion, I ask the voters, vote Hey Nico for community, for culture, faith. And that is all.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up there. I do want to thank you both for being here. Thank you, Kushal, for being our live studio audience. I just want to give a little caveat here for everybody, just in general. Keep in mind, especially if you have not played D-Civ before, we don't know what our start position looks like. We don't know how things are shaping up. So if you feel like they were vague, I mean, like, just take the results as you will, but just understand we have just started this mark. We're just getting started. And if you have any questions, please make sure you ask these individuals. Make sure you leave comments on the Reddit, whatever you need to do. Join the Discord, all the good stuff. Other than that, thank you everybody for being here, and we are not live anymore.
Thank you, Taylor, for organizing this.